Hi, welcome back to the channel. On today's episode of the how-to series, I'm going to show you how to install the SPL parts toe rod ends for your 6th gen Camaro. This will fit on any of the Camaros 2016 and up, whether it's your V6, RS, SS, whether you have a 1LE, ZL1, ZL1 1LE, this part is for you, and it'll allow you to get better dialed in rear camber settings that aren't going to move around on you after a track day. So come on with me to the bench. I'm going to show you what we need to get all of this installed on the rear of the vehicle. We're going to get the car up into the air and we'll get started. Here are the basic tools that you are going to need to install the SPL toe rods. First, well, you'll want to get the set of SPL toe rods, right? We'll start from there. Next, you'll want a torque wrench set to 74 foot-pounds. You'll also need to retighten with an additional 105 degrees of angle, but I'll put all of that in the description below. The factory bolts are going to be 18 millimeter. So you'll want an 18 millimeter socket and an 18 millimeter wrench, or 2 wrenches, 2 sockets and ratchets, whatever you need to do. Now, I'm going to install a different hardened bolt so that it's not single use torque to yield. And this here uses a 16 millimeter head, so I'm using a 16 mil for that. I will leave the links to get all of these in the description, but also the bolt that comes with the SPL toe rods uses a 19 millimeter end, so you will want a 19 millimeter open end or box wrench for that. And then the nut on the other side of that is 18 millimeters. So you'll need the 18 for the nut, the 19 for the bolt itself. Now, I'm also using some orange thread lock. That is going to help prevent these bolts from backing out unnecessarily. I'm also going to have something to cut the zip ties on the SPL toe rods. These are what's holding these aluminum spacers in. You'll want a torque wrench or a breaker bar or something to get the wheels off, and of course the wheel socket of your choice. You'll also need a 3/16 socket cap or 3/16 Allen wrench, but I really suggest the socket cap so that we can get a inch-pound torque wrench, because you need to set the collars that prevent these threads from moving to 150 inch-pounds. Again, all of this info will be in the description, along with links to get everything. And what you'll want to do is make sure that you've got your rod ends set to an equal amount before you tighten those down. All right, let's get to the actual work. Okay, first thing that we want to do is get the car lifted into the air. I'm using quick jacks. For many, many years I've used jack stands. So whatever you need to do to get the car up into the air, that's your first step. Then we're going to take the rear wheels off. Once you have the rear wheel off, you're going to find your toe rods, which are these units right here. I'm going to bring you in closer and give you a different angle so you can see the work that we're going to do here. All right, now that we've got the toe rod here in sight, this bolt here needs to come off, and then this bolt back here also needs to come out. Now these again are 18 millimeter, so I'm going to go ahead and get my impact gun with an 18 mil on it to get this one loose. And then for the further bolts, I'm going to use 2 wrenches, socket and a wrench to break that loose. All right, now that we're here under the car next to the exhaust pipes, it is this bolt here. In fact, I'm able to loosen it without this other side of the bolt moving here. So I'm gonna loosen it just on this side here. And then once this rear bolt starts to spin a bit, which it is now, I'm gonna switch over and hold this in tight. Don't want this falling on my head, so I'm gonna clear my face and get that loose. And then just pull this nut off by hand the rest of the way. Once I have that clear, I can push that bolt out and remove the tow rod. Now that I have the factory tow rod out of the car, what I'm going to do here is make sure that the holes line up on the SPL with the factory bushings. This isn't going to keep your alignment. You're going to need your alignment done after this, but this just gives me a better idea of where I need to set these to not make this difficult to put back in. It just so happens that it looks like it's about 6 threads on each side to line these up to the same distance. So it might be different on yours, so that's why I recommend making sure that you test it against the factory tow rod here. Okay, now that we're ready to put the SPL tow rod on, I'm gonna go ahead and get these lined up here. I'm gonna go ahead and cut away the zip tie that's holding these on. And then what I'm going to do, since I'm not using since I'm not using the OEM bolts, I'm also going to put a little bit of this orange thread locker in here. Along with on the bolt itself, which I've already done. And then we're going to go ahead and feed this through. And I'm going to thread this in by hand. I don't want to cross thread anything. Once I get it started by hand, I'll go ahead and get that tightened up with a 16 millimeter wrench. This will just help speed things up a bit. I am reusing the OEM washer, spacer, whatever this thing here is. And then once I have that snug, I'm gonna go ahead and swing this up and over to get to the other bolt hole, which can be a bit tricky, but a little bit of coercion, we should be able to get it up there. You might need to wiggle that in a few times to get it up there. Now I chose to do the eccentric lockout option on the SPLs, which is only a few bucks more, absolutely worth it. Gives you this metal lockout that will prevent your toe from moving on your alignment. And then we're going to take the bolt that was supplied by SPL. That's going to go in through the back side. Put the other eccentric lockout on this side. And then use the bolt that, or I'm sorry, the nut that is also provided by SPL. Then we'll start tightening that. Again, this one is 18-inch. And it's a 19-inch on the back side. I've got my 19-inch here, and tightening with the 18 on the nut side. I'm gonna keep going until we cannot go anymore, and then we'll switch over to our torque wrench to get these torqued to spec. So I'll start with the one on the outer or the rotor side. Again, I'm using an aftermarket bolt. So this is a 16 mil, but the factory uses 18. This is gonna be 74 foot-pounds plus 105 degrees angle after for the second pass. So there's that. And then we'll go second pass of the angle. Next, we need an 18 mil for the inner nut. Look at that. Again, that is 74 plus 105 on the second pass. There's the 74. Plus the 105. Now, we're not quite done yet. To make sure these aren't wiggling away on us and moving around, we're going to go ahead and use a 3/16 socket cap wrench to tighten these to 150 inch-pounds. And there we go. We're all set. Now we just need to do the same thing on the driver's side. It is the exact same process. I'm not going to waste your time. So let me slide out under here and we'll wrap this up. And there we go. We're all set. We've got the SPL toe rods installed. I want to give a huge shout out to a couple of forum members, CDRP Tracks and Mountain. They're on the Camaro 6 forums. Mountain is who gave me the idea to use the hardened steel bolts to replace the OEM bolts. They are torque to yield or single-use bolts. Whether you go with this route or the OEM bolts, I will have all of that information in the description below. CDRP Tracks gave me the idea to use the orange Loctite to make sure that everything stays nice and tight. Went with orange because it's not permanent. It is high bond though, so it shouldn't loosen up over time. Now, you do want to check to make sure that these haven't loosened after about 50 or 100 miles, and you will definitely need to get an alignment done once you've installed these. Also, huge shout out to Matt over at Wildhammer Motorsports. The SPL toe rods aren't exactly hard to come by, but when I needed them, he had them available. I've purchased a lot of parts from Wildhammer Motorsports in the past. Fantastic company to work with. This is not a sponsored video in any way, but I just wanted to give Wildhammer a shout out because whenever you need Camaro parts, head over there. They typically have them in stock and ready to go. The very last step is putting your wheels and tires back on, but I've got some more work to do. I'm getting ready to go to the track in a couple of weeks, so I'm gonna swap out my brake pads and put my track wheels and tires on. But if you want to see how easy it is to swap out pads on these cars, I'll have a video up here somewhere. Till the next project, till next time, we'll see you then.